I was 16, a junior in high school with a packed schedule of 9 classes each day. After lunch, I had astronomy, a class held in one of the school's basement classrooms. The building was large with 3 floors, but even that wasn't enough space, so they'd converted part of the basement into 2 classrooms. It used to be a janitorial area, and though it had been remodeled, it still felt eerie when empty. There were no intercoms down there, so morning announcements didn't reach us, which meant no first myriad classes in the chamber, as we called it. Everyone wanted to be assigned there. It was air-conditioned, the classes were easier, and it had its own bathroom. That day, we had a quiz in astronomy. I finished quickly and texted my friend in the other basement classroom to meet me in the bathroom out of boredom. He agreed, and a few moments later he walked in. We were joking around when he checked his phone and said the school was on lockdown. We grinned at each other. Our teachers hadn't seen us leave, so we had free reign of the building. We decided to sneak upstairs just for fun, figuring the worst that could happen was explaining we hadn't heard the announcement. But when we opened the basement door, the hallways were pitchy black. Normally, lights stayed on during lockdowns. Something was wrong. My friend stepped forward, then froze. "Who's that?" he whispered. A figure emerged from the darkness. A man dressed like a drifter, nothing like school staff. We bolted back downstairs. Both classroom doors were shut, so we hid in the bathroom, turning off the light and cramming into a corner stall. The silence was suffocating, just our breathing and the occasional drip from the sink. Then the door creaked open. Light spilled in before darkness swallowed us again. Footsteps approached, followed by ragged breathing right outside our stall. My friend whispered we should crawl out, but the sound gave us away. The door rattled as someone shoved against it. We scrambled under the dividers, escaping just as the banging intensified. We pounded on my friend's classroom door. The teacher let us in, locking it behind us. My friend claimed the man had a gun. I hadn't seen it, but I didn't argue. The class was dead silent, all wide-eyed fear. Then came a bang at the door. Through the window, we saw the man twisting the knob before storming off. The lockdown lasted over an hour. When it ended, police escorted us out. We described the man, but no one ever told us if he was caught. The school installed cameras after that. Years later, as a retired officer, I responded to a middle school lockdown on a stormy day. A suspicious man had been seen entering near the locker rooms. Inside the halls were dark. A staff member warned me he might be armed. The locker room was worse, no light except my flashlight. Just eerie noises like metal scraping. Then a locker door slammed. I shouted, "Police!" A muffled cry for help answered. A boy was trapped inside, bleeding from a cut on his arm. The kidnapper had fled in a white van, later caught at a gas station. Another time, staying at a hotel, an alarm blared, a lockdown warning. I thought it odd, but ignored it until the front desk called. Voice urgent, "There's someone in your room. Get out now." I checked everywhere, under the bed, the bathroom, before spotting the closet door slightly ajar. A face stared back. The door slid shut. I ran. Security footage showed a man entering my room an hour earlier, watching me from the closet until the alarm scared him off. Looking back, it's chilling how close danger can be. In a school bathroom, a locker room, even a hotel closet. Some threats vanish without answers. Others leave scars, seen and unseen. The boy from the locker room had nightmares for months. His parents told me later that he couldn't sleep unless every light in the house was on. I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't shouted when I did. Would that man have taken him? Would he have hurt him worse? I'll never know. As for the hotel incident, police found duct tape and rope in the man's van. He never explained why he'd chosen my room, but the way he looked at me as they led him away, like he recognized me, still unsettles me. The front desk clerk said he'd been watching the hallway cameras for hours before slipping inside. Strange how danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's just a shadow in a basement, a noise in a locker room, a sliver of movement behind a closet door. And sometimes the only thing between you and disaster is a split-second decision. Running, hiding, or just being loud enough to scare the darkness back. I don't tell these stories often. Most people don't want to think about how thin the line between safety and something worse really is. But I've seen it, felt it, and now, years later, I still double-check locks, glance twice at empty hallways, and never ignore an alarm, no matter how strange it seems. Because the scariest thing isn't the man in the dark. It's realizing how close he was all along. The human mind has a way of burying fear deep, convincing us we're safe, until something cracks that illusion. Years later, I still wake up sometimes, heart pounding, imagining the rasp of that man's breath outside the bathroom stall, or the way the locker room echoed with nothing but the creak of metal and a trapped kid's whimpers. You start noticing patterns after a while. The way predators move, always testing, always watching for the moment people let their guard down. Schools, hotels, even quiet neighborhoods. They pick places where hesitation means opportunity. The boy from the locker room? He's grown now. We talked once, years after. Said he still can't walk past a row of lockers without his skin crawling. The hotel clerk quit not long after my stay. Couldn't shake the guilt of not catching the intruder sooner. And me? I check closets. Every time, even in my own home. Maybe that's the real cost of these close calls. Not the scars or the headlines, but the quiet way they rewrite your instincts. You learn the weight of a locked door, the meaning of silence where there should be noise. The world's full of unlocked doors. Most lead nowhere, but you never forget the ones that open at the wrong moment. The funny thing about fear is how it lingers in ordinary places. That hotel room's closet door, the kind with wooden slats that never quite close flush, still makes my fingers twitch when I see one. I catch myself holding my breath when passing school basements, half expecting to hear the scuff of worn shoes on concrete. You start seeing echoes of those moments everywhere. A janitor's cart left unattended in a hallway, a van idling too long behind a building, the way a stranger's gaze lingers just a beat too long in an elevator. Most times it's nothing, but the day you stop noticing is the day it might be something. They never found out why that man targeted my hotel room. The cops theorized he might have been watching college tours, looking for kids traveling alone. The boy from the locker room? His attacker had 3 prior arrests for trespassing near schools. The drifter in our high school basement? Vanished like smoke. These aren't ghost stories. They're the opposite reminders that the real threats don't creak floorboards or rattle chains. They test doorknobs. They blend in. They wait. Now when I walk into a room, my eyes trace the exits first. I notice who stands too close in line at the coffee shop. I count the steps to the nearest panic alarm in hotels. Not because I'm afraid, but because I know what happens when good people assume the world's safer than it is. The lock's only as strong as your willingness to turn it. The alarm's only as good as the hand quick enough to hit it. And the difference between a close call and a tragedy? Sometimes just a single stupid moment of hesitation. So I don't hesitate anymore. The weight of that realization changes you. I carry it in the way I pause before rounding blind corners, in the fraction of a second where my hand automatically checks for my keys between parking lots and doorways. It's not paranoia, it's the understanding that predators don't wear warning signs. They wear work boots, or janitor uniforms, or college hoodies. They look like anybody, until the moment they don't. I think about the hotel maintenance worker who eventually confessed he'd seen that man lingering near the ice machine for hours before my encounter. About the substitute teacher at the middle school who'd held the door for a parent who turned out to be the locker room intruder. Good people, conditioned to be polite, to assume the best. That's the cruelest trick of all. How the systems meant to protect us rely on our own willingness to seem rude, to cause a scene, to trust that gut punch of instinct when something feels wrong. We're taught from childhood not to overreact, not to embarrass anyone. Even now, part of me wonders if that man in our high school basement was just some homeless guy looking for shelter, if we overreacted. But the alternative, not reacting, doesn't bear thinking about. So I live with these small hypervigilances like phantom limbs, always sitting facing exits in restaurants, noting fire extinguishers and heavy objects that could become weapons, making sure my nieces know that if someone ever tells them, "Don't scream," that's exactly when they should scream loud enough to rupture eardrums. The world isn't a horror movie. The monsters don't jump out from behind trees. They come through unlocked windows, left cracked for fresh air. They smile at you from the next urinal in a deserted rest stop bathroom. They're counting on you to ignore that prickle at the back of your neck because it's probably nothing. But sometimes, not often but enough, it's something. And the ones who walk away are the ones who refuse to dismiss their own fear as foolishness. The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is, "It can't happen here." I've stood in too many places where it did happen. Ordinary classrooms with scuffed floors, hotel corridors smelling of carpet cleaner, locker rooms steamy from showers. Places where life should have been mundane. Until it wasn't. I think about the calculus of survival, how the boy in the locker had bitten his attacker's hand hard enough to draw blood, leaving DNA under his nails. How the hotel intruder had chosen my room because my "Do Not Disturb" sign had been out all day, marking me as alone. How the basement intruder fled when we made noise. Most predators do. These aren't coincidences. They're clues written in the grammar of violence. Now I teach situational awareness without apology. Not the paranoid fantasy of every shadow holding a threat, but the practiced art of noticing. That man's hands are in his pockets too long. That van's side door is slightly open. That woman keeps glancing at the emergency exit. Real danger usually telegraphs itself, if you know how to read the signs. The world remains full of good people, but the few who aren't, they're students of human vulnerability. They know most victims hesitate because politeness runs deeper than survival instinct. They count on our reluctance to be wrong about danger. So I've made peace with being that guy who double-checks locks, who asks pointed questions when something feels off, who would rather apologize for a false alarm than explain why I didn't act, because I've seen the alternative, not just in my own close calls, but in the stories that didn't end with someone walking away. Safety isn't a guarantee. It's a series of small, unglamorous choices we make every day. The choice to turn on lights, to lock doors, to listen when that quiet voice says something isn't right. And sometimes, the choice to run like hell. The truth is, survival isn't about bravery, it's about noticing. The flicker of movement where there shouldn't be. The door that's slightly ajar when you swore you closed it. The silence that feels heavier than it should. I don't live in fear, but I don't live in denial either. The world is still full of unlocked doors, of shadows that mean nothing, until the day one of them does. And if the price of safety is a few extra seconds checking the back seat, or walking the long way to avoid a deserted alley, or trusting that gut-deep prickle of warning, well, that's a trade I'll make every time. Because the greatest weapon against darkness isn't strength. It's simply paying attention and then having the courage to act before the story becomes one that can't be told.